we bring the meeting to order?
How about it?
Recording in progress.
I'll call the meeting to order
All right.
at 5:30. And, okay, approve the minutes. Anybody, anything stand out to them as false or misinterpreted? I did not see anything when I went through.
Nope.
I liked our second grouping of meetings because they were concise. We're gonna try and be concise tonight too, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm into concise. Does anybody want to approve the minutes from 9/27/2023?
So moved.
Anybody wanna approve them? Oh. Denise moved and Carol seconded. And then we also have the minutes from 10/12/23, which was our special meeting.
Oh,
Who wants to approve?
I approve. I'll move
Move to approve.
Approve.
Who wants to second it? Thank you, Carol. Denise.
I think you have
Second.
to do an all in favor to close that loop.
Okay, let's all in favor, if everyone is in favor, on 9/27/2023. All in
Aye.
favor? And how about the special meeting for 10/12/23? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. One closed loop.
One close loop.
Okay, so budget finances also is similar to D3, so maybe we could talk about all those things at one time. Am I allowed to squish things together?
So you're going to discuss D1 and D3?
I'm gonna discuss C and D3.
Oh,
They're
I
the
think-
same kind of.
yep, they are.
So, finances and fundraising options. We have talked about, so we have, and we're gonna need the city to weigh in on this, and then we're gonna need to weigh in on this. So we have talked, about the fundraising options of the city, and I'm gonna give my idea, cause I've given this some thought, and then you
Okay.
can give me your ideas. So GLF has been, the Greater Lewis Foundation's been brought up a few times, and then fundraising options have been brought up and how we kind of lack in them, a few times. And then the city's funds have been brought up a few times. So I was gonna suggest that the city's money, which is supposed to be used for operations and concrete and signage and lighting and transport and all of those things. So our money from the city, we will really allocate to that. And the money that if we were to raise money privately or with the GLF could be used for anything, but really we will use it for fundraising for the artwork. And so then it would stay with GLF, this would stay with the city, and then we'd allocate, okay, this bill goes to them, this bill goes to them, and we can still fundraise through the city, we can still fundraise through GLF, but this way we would be fundraising in a more robust way. How does everybody feel about this? Anybody have any options? Opinions as
No,
well?
I think it's a great idea if we have that money from the city for background and infrastructure.
Yep.
And then through GLF, we can raise money that, I think when you raise the money, it makes it more, more raisable, if you will.
Like that?
If it's going towards the
Mhm.
the artist and the artwork itself,
Right.
rather than, a concrete pad or cranes or, that kind of thing. So I think it's a good idea. I like it.
Does that mean you wouldn't be using any money from the city towards your artwork itself?
Well, in the past, we really have only ever borrowed. We've never bought artwork before. So it's been kind of all lumped in one pod, but this would be, we'd have a little bit more money to identify what's going to the artist, in my opinion. Because in the past, it's all been kind of one big lump sum. The artist gives us a price for transport, this, and this, and we pay that. And this would identify a little bit more, so the artist probably could get a little more, and also we would know what the art costs versus what all the other stuff costs. And your opinion, I can see you're
I think
thinking.
there's value to separating it.
I I do too.
Just from a, you know, a public standpoint, you know.
Any-
'Cause we
Anybody?
always say we don't buy art, we pay pay an artist to install it.
Well, and also I think it gives us an opportunity to raise more money and raise money for the art, and the city is supporting our initiative, but it's like, then no one can ever say we bought art, which is said we don't want to do, and then nobody's putting public taxpayer dollars toward, which, I mean, in some ways,
I wouldn't worry about
we've been
that.
elected to do that, but at the same time,
Committee, yeah, so,
May I speak now?
yes.
Is that okay? Thank you. I met this past week with Janet and also Ellen Lorraine, who is our acting city manager, and we discussed a possible framework if you were to go forward with retaining GLF's services for fundraising. And as you described, and as Barry has also, it would be an opportunity for two distinct sources be identified for funding art. The city would be responsible per the terms of our public art policy, which is a document that is memorialized, right? And we understand what that says. Where the city would fulfill that responsibility. And then through fundraising, if you will, the scope, the public art committee's scope would be free from that strict control from the city, you know, where you're limited by this very finite budget, and gosh, we've only got, you know, $3,000 or whatever it is for this year's art project. If you have the ability to raise more money, you're gonna be able to possibly realize your goals that way. But in the organization of creating this structure, you are going to, there will be a need for a separate group, other than PAC, to be, PAC will be the committee that would oversee the art, the choice, the selection, so forth and so on. But the fundraising piece is gonna have, if you're going through GLF, it's gonna have to be separate from the PAC committee. So in other words, the model that we have throughout the city is we have friends groups, and friends of whatever, you know, end up being the fundraising organization or arm of a city committee's activity. So they would report to you, this friends group. I'm suggesting friends, you can call it whatever you want to call it, patrons of art, whatever. But they would be subject to your controls, your management, but they would be responsible for managing GLF, and there is a management piece to this, and making sure that the accounting from GLF is reported to you, and then the expenditures are managed by you folks as well.
And
Does
how
that make
many-
sense? Did you understand?
Can
what I'm
that person, can any of us be on that group, in that group, or does that have to be separate from
It
all of us?
has to be separate
It would
from
be
the
separate.
committee.
Now, I do think that there would be, I would suggest, in my vision, what I would suggest is that a person from PAC would serve as if you will, a liaison to that group, so that there is communication and there's a way for that group to talk to your committee. But that committee, that friends group, again, patrons, whatever you want to call it, would be their own little instrument out there, but completely subservient, you know, to you folks, to this committee.
And how many people have to be on the Friends, like 3 or more?
I would
there's
think
any
more than
number.
two,
Yeah.
you know, but not
Friends
as
of
many as
Canal Farm
five.
Park.
Yeah.
3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 to
Okay.
5 would be plenty.
Hmm.
But the critical thing is that we're not commingling funds that are being donated through GLF. Those are being kept in a separate pot
Yes.
from that which the city is
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah.
And also, if any members of the community donate directly to the city, then
That
will-
goes to the city.
That goes to
It
the
stays
city,
in
and
the
it would be
city.
used to offset these installation costs.
Yep.
We'll describe them that way. Whereas the compensation for the artists, I should say, the acquisition or rental costs, whatever that is,
Mhm.
that would be handled under this Friends of group or patrons group through the GLF activity.
And is this, how
So
should
I'm sorry.
how should I say it? Is this okay with the city? Is the city okay with this? I mean, you would be speaking for the city,
I'm
so.
speaking
Right.
for the city, I'm speaking for the management side of the city, the civilian
Mhm.
side, if you will. I will certainly discuss this with council, I haven't had that opportunity, but I have reason to believe that this would be fully acceptable. It's not a radical departure from how
From-
other committees in the city work,
Okay,
so it's very familiar.
okay, great.
Tim, would you mind explain,
Heidi.
Heidi, sorry.
I know,
From
it
beyond.
took me a second to, she's coming for you.
Would you mind explaining why it has to be this way? I'm not questioning that it
Yeah.
has to be this way, but I don't understand exactly why.
Well, right, part of it is that there is a cost associated with, when you create a relationship with GLF, there are fees associated with that relationship. And we want to make, for bookkeeping purposes, and so accounting purposes, we wanna make sure that there is no commingling of these funding sources. You know, the city, council has, and as far as I know, is still interested in supporting this committee going forward. And we wanna make sure that those funds are used appropriately per the policy document. And then it really liberates you all
Mhm.
in a big, big way,
Mhm.
to be able to do fundraising in what I would consider probably a very, much more aggressive public way, than what you have in the past.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel like that's what we're looking for, cause we have big expectations.
Yeah, you wanna jumpstart this drive,
Mhm.
and
Let's go.
and some people will, I would think some people who would like to donate might feel that they want to make sure that their donation is going towards acquisition or rent, whatever that is.
Mhm.
Those kinds of costs associated, then the costs associated that the city has already agreed to provide in
Mhm.
the forms of installation related costs.
And we can put that on our little page with GLF when we're asking for money, like, the city has so wonderfully supported our programming, and this is what they do, but this is what we're asking
But this
for.
is the fundraising
Mhm.
arm of PAC,
Yeah.
and it is called Friends of or Patrons of, and, you know, and the checks would be made payable to that
Okay.
group rather than the city.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so the tax deductibility benefit would flow through GLF to
Mhm.
that individual, and the city would still provide that tax benefit if a donor
Mhm.
was to make a donation directly to the city, with the understanding that those funds would be used for the city's obligation as it relates to PAC, not to the art, the consult,
Yeah.
those kinds of.
So they're like,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, now this committee, this Friends of the Arts, let's say, they do not have any role with the city. I mean, they're a unit unto themselves.
Yes, but under your direction,
Right, okay, so
Correct.
they're more to us than to the city.
that's correct.
Okay,
Right, and that's why they have to report to you all. They would be responsible for reporting to you, the financial statement I would expect, at the end of a fund drive, or, at this time of year right now, you're going through a art selection exercise, right?
Mhm.
And, I would expect that they would be able to provide, I'm thinking in a year's time,
Yeah.
in 2 years out, they would be able to, in their presentation to you, they would say, we have $30,000 in donations, and the allocation is up to you all to designate how that money would be spent. And they would stay focused on the fundraising piece side of supporting art in Lewis.
we kind of need that. We need
So
those
it's
focus-
really no different than the Friends of Canal Front Park,
It's very
although
similar
they
model.
think of projects and stuff
Right,
like
but
that.
but I am introducing and this is something that expectation I'm putting on this committee, and it is an expectation I will explain to council members, is that, this Friends of Art group will be held accountable for their fundraising, and that they will report to this committee what has been collected, what has been donated, whereas we don't have that kind of oversight in some of these other committees, and we are gonna get it with PAC.
And, I was just gonna say.
So it's a management function that you all
Right.
will be
Right.
taking on. And,
When we started the fundraising for the clock,
right,
we used GLF basically as that Friends of the Clock.
that's correct.
And we could get statements from them. I'm just wondering how many people we need if, I mean, GLF, you all took care of a fundraising drive, putting the stuff in the paper, they hired everybody, did everything.
Right.
And there was really, I guess there needs to be at least a person or two to suggest what needs to be done and kind of
Right. And
do
I
that,
think-
because they did an awful lot of the legwork.
Right, and in your case, Steve, you came to council, you made your pitch.
Right.
You stated what the cost was going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then you stated, I remember being in a meeting, you stated that you would take care of the fundraising side of it,
Right.
right? And all you were looking from the city was a space in public, some designated public space for the installation. That was
Yeah.
that was all that was placed on the city as far as expectation. The other thing that this will provide you all is the opportunity to, if you all go towards acquiring art where you're gonna do a permanent installation,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to think about endowment. You're gonna have to think about the long-term maintenance.
Yeah.
The city is not interested or capable of taking that on. That is gonna have to come from this committee's fundraising, a result of fundraising, and with what I'm just calling an endowment fund. So if you have a particular piece of art that you're acquiring, I'm gonna make a number up, let's say it costs $10,000 to acquire it, and over the course of a 20-year period, it might cost $5,000 to maintain it, washing it, whatever it
Yeah.
needs to be done. That money would be drawn from your endowment fund, that would again be part of your fundraising, the committees, the subcommittees, fundraising drive.
And one other question, would GLF make payments to the city for anything, or would they make payments directly to the artist, or directly to what we would need?
The way I see that, and Janet, you can feel free to
I
correct
don't
me
think
on
they'd
that.
go to the
I
city at all.
think that could be something that would be directed by the
Oh,
committee.
okay.
I don't see why it would have to go from GLF to the city and then
Yeah,
out.
okay.
I think it keeps it nice and clean.
Yeah, I
keep it
think,
separate.
I
Okay,
think the,
direct.
the goal here is to keep, I'm
Big
special,
voice.
is to keep those funds in separate pots and have that separate accountability.
And have it carry through the whole process.
Right.
That's always separate. So
Okay.
we always know what money we have to spend, right,
Mm-hmm.
at any one time.
Yeah, in my brain, this makes things simpler. Like, it's like, okay, we've got this over here, we kinda know how much money this
Right.
is, and then we've got this, which could grow, and we can, this year we're gonna allocate this amount of money, but then it's not all, it kinda makes it simpler in my brain. I don't know if that's just 'cause we're separating it, but.
Well, and I think it's also easier, I think it's also easier to raise money for specific art pieces too, and as we go through this,
Yeah.
I think people are gonna be much more inclined to, hey, I wanna see that, and rather than just give money
In
to
general,
support art in general.
I think it can go both ways, too. I mean, I think there are people who just want to bring art in and
You're right.
would be acceptable to that, and then, you know, if we did something in the paper or a mailer that showed some of the art that we're interested in and put that out, I think that would be, much the way we kinda did it with the clock, was send a mailer out with a picture of the clock on it, and then that went to a huge number of people. And
You had an
they
event
responded.
too, didn't you?
What?
Did you have an event too for fundraising? Like, I think that works
No.
well.
We didn't have we had an event afterwards for the people, but there was no, particular event for it.
Well,
We-
and I have
there
an
was a-
event idea and a
Okay.
person's house who would have it, so if
Right.
we wanna have an event, we have somebody who's
That would
willing
be
to do a
nice. Yeah, that'd be
matching
great.
fund. So if we could do this matching fund and have people, but I don't wanna bring them to my house, because I feel like I already asked people for money in my
Right.
business, and that feels really uncomfortable. And so,
this is a perfect opportunity to create that separation.
yeah,
From
Yeah.
you as the chairperson to the fundraising.
yeah, oh, okay, perfect, so that can be,
Yeah, may I ask you a question of Heidi Evans, please? Heidi, due to your association with GLF and your knowledge of that operation, would GLF file the necessary paperwork for the 5013C for this Friends of group?
All the funds at the GLF use the GLF's 501c3.
Yeah, I
So
wanted
they
that
do
up.
the tax, work for, I know that, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but, many of our clients, that's how we can hold the funds for the client at the GLF. And because I am awkwardly explaining this, I was thinking that at our next meeting, it would probably be a good idea to invite Mike Rawl, who's the executive director, to come and explain it all, because he knows exactly how it works.
I think that's a really good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
If you all agree to go with this,
And should we by
Sure.
then choose, or maybe that's premature, but one or two people to be
Yeah. I
the
think-
friends of?
Oh,
Sure,
Okay,
The
well, we can
sooner-
start organizing that too.
move on then.
yeah.
Well, we should,
thought about Nancy.
I mean, we should pick a liaison from this group, one or two people, and then sort of brainstorm as to who do we want on it. I mean, it could
Take a little while.
It could take a while. You may want to have just a few people. It may be, a whole group of people that
Oh,
support
I
what
actually
we're doing.
might have a good person for that. The person
good.
who is offering their house for the
Yeah.
fundraiser.
Yeah, something.
She might be a great
Right.
person for that, and she's great with she does that type of work. So maybe that would be a good person for that.
So in
Yeah.
effect, what I am, my vision for you folks, for this committee, is that the fundraising group, I will call it, would be in effect a subcommittee of the primary committee, and you all are the primary. And they serve you, and, they report to you. And their sole function is really the fundraising piece. And if that includes having events, like, that kind of thing, or like you're talking about, they would handle that. You all wouldn't, you could certainly attend, but you would be trying to create the venue. That's
Yes.
their function.
Yeah.
Good.
Anybody else? Oh, Tony?
Oh.
Tony Boyd here on 31484 Red Mill Drive. I have a question about the mechanics of all this. Currently, any other group that wants to purchase and install public art on public land or public buildings has to go through PAC to get authority. If PAC starts to purchase art, who do they go through to get permission?
It's,
I mean, the same as it has been thus far. If you want to bring something and you want to pay for it and also have an application, but we're gonna continue doing it as well. And we're trying to go through this process
So,
very,
so that, I mean, in effect, then there's no, I can't think of the word I want, control is not the right word, but, that, you know, somebody else would have to approve whatever it is that you choose
Well,
to purchase
It-
and install.
how would it be different? In my mind, it's like Friends of Canal Front Park raising money for a picnic table. Who are they gonna, there's
Well, I
no
don't know,
approval
I'm just
process.
asking the question because I don't quite understand the difference between any other art group wanting to bring something into the city that, you know, we have to go, and full disclosure, I'm with Art in Bloom, but, you know, we have to bring a project to you, and
With
it has
us.
to be approved by you.
Right.
but now it's
And
that
I
you're
have no
bringing it
problem
with
that.
us.
But, you know, is there anybody going to be able to say they don't approve of something that the Public Art Committee may want to purchase and install?
Well, I would say the public would be the ones who would have to come and make some statement about not approving, or not wanting to have it, and then it,
Yeah.
but this group has worked,
May
It-
I also speak to that, please?
Yeah.
And I'm reading directly or referencing the
Mhm.
policy
Sure.
document in paragraph number 18. It makes it very clear that it speaks of minor installations and major installations. And the minor installation is something that does not raise to the level of involving the mayor and council. But if it is a major installation, a major is not really well defined here, but I would suggest, and this is Tim's thinking, is that if it is considered to be a permanent installation, that trips the major. And you could also think of scale. If the pieces especially, or pieces, whatever, are especially large, and large for its chosen location, that could qualify as major also,
And
in
one-
my mind. it
and one more
does.
thing, I would say if it's controversial on any,
Sure,
mhm.
the safe thing to do then is.
All art is controversial to
Well,
some
the-
people.
well, the safe-
But if it were to be very, like,
Right, if it's
a-
really.
in a
pushing-
different level of
Right, if it's
controversial.
pushing that envelope and you're not, because the policy document also speaks to, the art chosen will reflect the values of the city.
Mhm.
But if you're pushing that envelope and you're in that gray area, the safe thing to do is to say, have your public meeting. Do people attend or do they not? That's their choice. You know, they Zoom or they don't. And then you all make your recommendation to the council and let them be part of your decision making. That's how I would treat it.
That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
And that's applicable to something that comes out of their
it's not
genesis.
because I have an axe to grind, I just want to understand the
that.
system.
I understand that, Tony. There's no axe here. There's no axe. Right.
Good.
Do you have any questions about what I've said so far? Because I want to make sure
No.
I understood.
No, that's
No,
very
that's-
clear and well thought out on the fly, I think.
Thank you.
Tim is very good with our documents. I mean, that's why we need him every time.
I see, I guess, an advantage to having this separated.
Mhm.
I think we're more likely to raise money than having people who have to write a check to the city and then put down for public art on the check.
Right.
I mean, that's a little roundabout,
Right.
much better to have strength.
And in
Yeah.
turn, and let me just add again another comment. I've spoken to Heidi about, I don't mean to be pointy, it's not kind of rude. I've spoken to Heidi about you all needing to be working towards preparing your budget for next year. And this goes hand in hand with this art selection that you're also trying to work through. Well, if you've identified an artist and your fundraising side is working on making sure that the funds are available to acquire that art or rent the art, whatever it is, and the installation piece is going to be possibly a little more involved than what previous installations have been, then your budget request can reflect and support the actual piece of art that you all have selected. And the city can, in its appropriations, make the monies available or not. But at
Yeah.
least we're
We
doing
understand.
what we're given a chance to do what we're supposed to do.
Okay,
Okay.
I think that was a great conversation. We should hear from Mike next time, and then we can vote. I think for next time would be a
Do
great,
we know when our next meeting is?
not quite yet. I did want to move on for one, is everybody okay with
Do we
this?
need to wait till next meeting? It sounds like everybody is in favor of doing it, it's just a matter of the details.
I mean, I'm down to.
Yeah,
I mean, I would,
Let's
I'd,
go. Let's do
I'd
this.
put
may-
forth a motion that we create a fund through the GLF to raise money for public art.
By creating
A separate group,
Right.
by creating a separate group, yes.
Okay, you put that forward, the
Yes.
motion.
second,
All right,
All
Call
in
for
favor?
discussion. Wait, call for discussion first.
Oh, call for a discussion? Does anybody have anything to discuss?
Yeah, that hasn't been said already. Do you have anything else to say?
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wow, look at us.
Good.
Thank you for moving that
I'm
right
on my
along.
way.
I
Yeah.
really
Everybody
appreciate
wants to
that.
do it. Let's do
Thank
it.
you, Barry.
Yeah,
And I just noticed that Trina is on, so I wanted to I'm gonna jump around a little bit today.
Okay.
So Trina is actually, the commissioner for H.P. Smith Park. And so she's interested in I asked her to come at the very last minute, which I really appreciate that you're here, Trina. And so the discussion on the possible 2024 seasonal art selection. So I talked to.
So just for the public, this is item D5
Yeah.
on the agenda?
We're moving around a little.
Okay,
Mhm.
nope, just so that people can follow.
All over the place
It
tonight.
is the art committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. We do not follow the rules. I just noticed that she's on. I know she's away. I don't want to keep her on the whole time. So I would love to talk about, so we're gonna wait on 2025, and I talked to Karen Bravin about, Steed Taylor's, street tattoo. That was the one that we talked about last time, and it doesn't look like it's going to be financially, feasible for this year. It's 15 to 20,000, and I just don't think that that's possible with this year and all of those things, and our fundraising just getting off the ground now. So our next one, Steve, you talked to Paul
he
Daniels.
just called right in
Oh,
the beginning,
nice.
yeah, so I had to put him off, so.
So what did you find out from Paul Daniels? Is he willing to work with us? And-
Yes, he's very willing, he's very excited about it. He has up to 5 pieces that we could use.
So excited.
So, one of which would more than likely be, if we use the pond and that park down there, around Blockhouse Pond, a piece in the water, and then 3 or 4 pieces around the park.
Yeah, and that's something that
So-
I think if Paul was willing to come to Lewis in a kind of faster fashion, sooner than later, then maybe with
Well, I'm
Trina.
wondering if that's what he's calling
Yes.
me about.
So I was thinking
Oh,
Trina,
no.
you, maybe any of us who wants to go, and Paul could walk some different areas, and Trina, I would hope, would be able to walk the H.P. Smith Park with us. So I want her to be in the discussion. Blue, would you be able to put the Paul Daniels, image up so she can see it? It's the one with the wind. It's from last meeting or 2 meetings ago.
Steve, while he's doing that, may I ask a question about the pieces that are available? Do I remember Paul Daniel having, in the first images that you showed, weren't there like 3 different pieces in water? And then there was like, I'm gonna call it like a crank, bird, in my mind it was a bird.
Yeah,
Going up and down in the water. Is that what?
yeah,
these.
that's those those are three of the pieces.
One of 'em-
Actually, the
the-
one on the left there, I think, is not available.
Okay.
But the one in the middle, the one on the right, and there's a number of other pieces. Yeah, there's a number of other pieces that are available that have been,
So,
Oh,
I
hi,
am
Trina.
on the line, I appreciate
oh,
your
go ahead.
patience with me, because I am in the car rental place.
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh.
a little noisy.
Thank you for joining, Trina.
I did get a chance to view the artwork, so is it my understanding that, we're looking at more than one piece in the park?
Yes, it would be, we would love to have one in the pond and possibly a few around, in the proper spots.
I mean, we had, 2 or 3 pieces there 2 years ago, so it's not something that we haven't done. I do think that because these pieces are all done by the same artist, I think it'll also look better and have more of an impact. I think last year we had, or 2 years ago, we had the squirts, the pink things, and, I don't know what.
Rosa's pieces
Yeah,
too.
with
were-
the-
Right, the reflective
monument.
piece. And
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, even though we're in different places, but I think it would be kind of interesting to have 3 pieces in the same park, and so that people could sort of relate to the whole.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Trina, can you hear us?
Okay, so, yeah, I can, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth on you, because I'm playing blind over. But, yeah, I would be very interested, I'm sure Mark would be also, I get back in town, Sunday, late Sunday, so I won't be able to do it before, Monday or so, maybe Tuesday, so Monday I have another option.
Trina, we can't understand you. I'm sorry, it's going really, I think you said you're gonna be back on Sunday night.
And I would also like Mark to be
Mark.
available to do so as well, because he is, I think, out of town as well.
She can't hear us either.
No.
I think he's
Okay,
take a walk around the park.
okay, that
Yeah.
would be great. So when you get back in town and Mark is back in town, we would love to meet with you and just talk to you about
Yes.
possibilities.
Spaces.
Yeah, spaces and, thank you
I'm
so
sorry.
much for joining
I'm
us
probably in
on
a
your
section
vacation.
where you can't hear me.
Yes, it's a little bit difficult, but thank you so much for joining us via Zoom, and then we will get a hold of you.
I'm so sorry you can't hear me.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now. Yep. Yeah, but you said you would be back on Sunday, right? Okay. Well,
Okay, so, yeah, I'll be back sometime Sunday evening. And I still have,
The
We'll
connections there.
call her next week.
Yeah,
we'll call you next week.
Yeah.
our budgets as well. So,
I think there's a delay. I think
Yes.
that's part of the
Yeah.
problem, so,
and I think
Yeah.
it's just,
yeah.
just breaking up. Her phone might be.
Yeah. So that's
issue.
good. At least she's aware of what we're doing and we've pulled her in since we're trying to, you know, follow our, application process. And this is the point where, and so we can talk to her about possibilities and walk the park with her.
Right,
And
and
it would be
maybe
great
with
if
Paul,
Paul-
yeah,
I
if
mean,
we
that
could
would
get
be-
that together.
And Mark was also,
Yeah,
we have,
Yeah,
we have 2 new commissioners for Smith Park, and so that's why it's been difficult to kind of bring them along. And actually, both of them are on vacation. I think
Yeah.
Mark's on vacation
Oh.
too, so.
Well, and I didn't give them any notice about our meeting. Sorry, Trina and Mark. But, so, and do you have any, was there any more information that you got from Paul Daniels as far as like what he
No.
would need? Are there, it didn't look
Well,
like
I-
there were plinths or,
No, there's a certain amount of, some kind of base that's gonna need to be for each piece, but they may be able, that's not me, to be driven into the ground, you know, some sort of spike that can hold it. I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
that's something we need to talk with him. And I think maybe part of that might be the phone call that he just, you know, I'm
Okay.
tempted to
When-
go out and talk to him for a minute and see if he has any.
And then some
More
kind of
info.
flotation system, if it was in.
Yeah, it
or
has
anchor.
floats, that, the floater
And
has
then they
that,
anchor
and
it,
then
I-
there's just a chain to, he has a couple different types of anchor things that we can use, or could just be a,
You don't need a 12-inch pad, right?
no,
praise God.
no.
Yes,
I'm concerned about cost, and, I guess I'd like to know the difference between having 3 pieces versus having 5 pieces. And, I mean, I just think this is something we need to consider.
Yeah, and I brought that up with Paul, and he said, that tall piece that was on, there was one very tall piece, that will need a crane. Now, that's, again, that's part of the part that we can do with the city, right? Get a crane. He can get everything in one big box truck. So as many pieces as we want to do, you know, up to like 5, I guess, will fit in a truck and then can be brought here. Now, the getting the one in the water, that will involve a crane for the top piece, I think, and the tall one is a crane. The other pieces,
In a boat,
a
You know,
boat?
you're
yes,
gonna wade out there?
I was thinking yes, but maybe
How
not.
deep is it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
My point is, though,
Yeah.
that there's got to be a difference between renting 3
Oh, absolutely.
versus renting 5.
And that's what he was working up. I mean, the last I talked to him, I said, you know, we need to know sort of transportation costs and what the rental will be for each piece, and, you know, what your needs will be for each thing, and kind of a budget from you, as well as what you want for the whole thing. So I'm hoping that he has that information
Steve,
so,
go ahead.
for me.
And the
Oh,
other thing is the
um,
crane worries me about the park and the ground.
yeah,
Right,
and the cost.
Yeah,
So that would have to be, if it's the expectation of the committee that that's something that the city's funding, that needs to go into the budget.
oh,
So
absolutely.
those
Right.
costs have to be figured
Yeah.
well in
They need to be buttoned
advance.
down now.
Yeah,
And what I would ask you to, Steve, and what you're asking Paul to do is in effect prepare proposals.
Yes,
Yeah.
And you, please ask him to tell you what the requirements are for the crane. Because you're
Okay.
talking about weight, you're talking about boom length possibly. You know, this is very important that we get those details now
yeah.
rather than in May.
These pieces are not heavy. They're nowhere near the weight of the one that went
Sure.
in the park down there.
Right.
So they're really, it's just because the piece is tall
Correct.
that and it has weight to it, but it's not a big, heavy piece. You know, you saw that one on the right.
Yes.
Now, there,
that's-
because that top piece has to be placed on there, so that will probably need the crane. It'll be very light, but it just needs to get
It's
up in
because
the
of the
air.
height.
It might be a
Yeah.
forklift, might not even be a crane.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
we can
And
talk about all
might
that,
be
yeah.
done by where you decide, where he
Yeah.
decides, or you all decide where to place it in the pond.
Yeah.
Right.
Or not. And the other thing about the pond,
and Janet brought this to my attention, is you will need to, speak to the BPW.
Oh.
The BPW actually, that pond is actually part of their stormwater management system. And I will give you the name of the individual you need to
Okay.
speak with, but you'll wanna keep them informed of what you're doing, okay?
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
get their blessing, okay?
Is there anybody else we need to, I mean, Trina and Mark and BPW, anybody else in the city that is gonna have need information about this? I wouldn't have thought of the BPW, so.
I can't think of anyone else right
So when you're looking at locations, and hopefully I'll be able to join you on that walk in the park. But the farmer's market has a location, it has drifted slightly because of the construction on the school property, which has come into the park property as well. So their location, I would ask that they be brought into the conversation as well. They've been kind of tenants in the park for several years, so they would definitely need to be clued in.
And do you expect that we can expect next summer that most of the school construction will be winding down?
With the ball fields?
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
I'm thinking is, and my question is the fact that they've drifted to accommodate the construction of the school, can we expect them that they would drift back towards their original location?
Well, part of the drift was because of the construction with the pathway.
Right,
The other part of the drift was keeping vehicles, trucks, basically, the farmers' trucks off the, outside the drip line of the trees.
right.
So I don't think it will shift back. I think if anything, it will shift the other way.
Okay, thank you.
And they're very, conscious of the traffic impact and the impact of parking in that neighborhood, because we had approached them about moving to another location, and there was much discussion when they were first coming into the park. So they feel that the location that they have is responsive to the initial concerns of residents in that neighborhood, and they want to remain cognizant of that and not stir up old wounds, open old wounds per se. So I would just ask that they be included, and I
Good
can
idea.
get that information for you.
Okay.
Right, good idea.
So, I guess, yeah.
I'm expecting when the artist is here, in addition to the costs, in terms of how many pieces go in, it's gonna depend on the aesthetics of it.
Some,
Because, as you're saying, with the farmer's market and having one in the pond, we don't need 4 more, pieces in the field there. I mean, that might be too much. Maybe it would be great, but.
Well, you spread them all the way around the pond so that it becomes something, you get to experience his work as you walk around the pond. That's what my feeling is that, there's a pretty big area to go all the way around the pond, and to think of 4 pieces being around the pond
I'm
was,
just saying,
is,
I think that in addition to the cost, the number of pieces is,
aesthetics.
we need his input about.
oh, sure.
Definitely.
All I can tell you is that from seeing them in the meadow at Ledoux Gardens was really wonderful, because they were fairly spread out, but you got a really nice, each piece being very different, but similar in that they're wind driven, and you know, it's nice to see all of his work. It's like a,
It's like a show.
yeah, it's like it's like a show, yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be there, you know, all summer long, which would, I think would be,
So I think our next step is, and also will you look at the application process to kind of make sure
oh, yeah. I need to
that we're
get-
answering all those questions? Because really, we're kind of, we're filling out that application as we go. So we can all look at that application and make sure that we are asking the correct questions. And that's in the policies sheet.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure that we are
I
following
need
our
to get
own
a copy
policies.
of that.
We're counting, crossing our Ts and dotting our Is or whatever that is.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you need any help with that, let me know.
I need to get those
Oh.
pieces of paper. I don't have that.
I think I emailed them, but I have
We
them.
can
Oh,
get
I,
the-
I can
Okay.
send them to you, Steve.
Can you? Oh,
Yep.
that'd be great. Thanks.
I might have a copy of them too. Okay, so we're
All
gonna,
relevant documents.
yes, those. And so I think Steed, we could talk about in another time, but I don't think we're in the ballpark for him, so we're gonna
Yeah.
move forward on figuring out the location and the costs and the infrastructure needed for Paul Daniels' work.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Fabulous.
great. Okay, we gotta move it along. So, discussion, we received an anonymous donation for our $775, initial order of T-shirts, which is cool.
Oh,
And so that is moving forward. They're being printed as we speak. So that's exciting. And that will bring us like $3,000, I think, is what we figured out. And we don't have to worry about the $775. So that was really,
That person needs to be thanked.
yes, they do.
Yes.
I will get that to you. They asked to be, but they asked,
I'm
asked to-
thanking or is our secretary thank?
oh,
Thank
well, you thanked before, that's why.
Yeah.
But what if they want to be anonymous? Do we
You can
thank?
address like an envelope to anonymous.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Dear anonymous.
Well, then maybe maybe I should send it, so it's anonymous.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
they need to be, that's great that they did that. I just
Okay,
wanna
Heidi,
thank
send.
them.
Heidi, do you want that on, cause when we were doing
Gas
them
station.
before, we were doing them on city note cards.
Sure.
Okay, I will get those for you.
Actually, no, I'm gonna send it on.
I know, because it's not jazzy enough
It's
for
not jazzy
you.
enough for me. I'm gonna
That's-
send it on,
That city seal is just
Boring.
too,
too boring. Or I'd have to like draw on it or something. Okay,
but
I get my own note cards. I will say from the city of Lewis,
I
I
know,
really
she
appre-
doesn't like our
No,
note
I'm not into those note cards at all. I love you, but no. We
Heidi.
maybe should make you some note cards, cause maybe you need a little more jazz.
Heidi?
Yeah.
Does that donation cover the cost of producing the T-shirts?
It covers the cost of getting the T-shirts and printing the T-shirts, and that is all.
So what other costs are involved before
Oh.
we start reaping the benefit?
I don't
of
think any.
sales? Oh, so, yeah, so they're covered, that's great.
Everything.
Yeah, so our initial costs are 100% covered.
Nice.
I know, so cool.
Does that
Thank
money
you.
go to the city or to our fund?
I don't know, how does that work?
well,
get
the
practice.
need
fund,
the
the
fund
fund's
first.
not set up yet,
Well, I,
so,
Okay.
so there's that.
There's that.
city,
Yeah.
city,
You need to schedule a special meeting to schedule Michael.
Okay.
and all come in and-
jeez, city, let's go to the city.
Okay. go to the
Okay.
city.
And, okay, done with that. Droop. And then, discussion of possible actions regarding the possibility of retaining Dewitt Godfrey as permanent art. I have Barry and Steve on that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And on next meeting,
Yeah.
I need a report. Thank
Okay.
you. Oh, done that. D2. We already did D3, so the last one is D4.
Wait,
AIB.
So,
what just happened with D2?
All we did was,
I wasn't sleeping, I promise.
Barry and Steve are on it. We have nothing.
Well, we spoke on the phone the other day about going down there with the city drainage
Right,
people.
so this is another BPW issue because that
Right.
is on, and they've
Right.
not been looped into this. So we're,
Right.
the city is working right now with BPW, and after we have that initial conversation, Steve, it's gonna be on Zoom.
Okay.
We'll then go down to the site. and
Okay.
So that's a critical piece of it. And it's also going to have to go to mayor and council,
Yes.
because we're talking permanent now.
And we would not only want to question whether or not it can stay there, or whether or not it can stay, period, and somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's like an
Right.
A and a B and
Correct.
a C.
Yep.
And have you all, is that B or C, whatever, the part where it might be relocated,
Yeah.
has that been studied
It,
or
it's
being studied?
been, so I walked the park with, Christine Vesci, and she's interested in it, so that's kind of cool.
Oh,
I mean, as
and
far,
that would be this part.
it would, yeah, kind of.
I think, is she talking about what we call the back 40?
No,
On
well,
the other
possibly,
side?
she's got a few spots that
Okay.
are
Okay.
possible, so
You're
that's,
working on it, that's critical.
I mean, there's been a conversation about it, but,
Okay.
and I think in some ways it could be a really ideal location because we could lower it into the ground and have it more of the,
Oh,
Yeah.
of the, you know how,
Yes.
Mhm.
it just was more integrated into the, not on a plinth.
Yeah.
And so I think that could be really cool, actually. So there's an A, B, and C option,
Okay,
but we're
good.
just working on
But you're working
info.
towards it.
We're working on info.
Yeah,
okay,
And Barry and Steve are our
Great.
liaisons for that,
okay.
which we really appreciate. I do
Sorry,
really
I
appreciate.
didn't mean to backslide on the conversation, but I went,
Yeah.
what?
Oh, slow me down at any point. I'm known for my speed, but that's not always thorough. Sorry.
Well, we have
Tony.
Tony?
wants to
Hi.
Ask a question.
money do you need to raise to pay for it?
We don't have an exact number, but we would have to raise quite a bit of money, but we do have some people who are interested in putting big pots of money into our pot, so that would be exciting, yeah. So,
Heidi,
I have no actual answers on anything, thank you.
I want to backslide to the t-shirts when we're done with the current conversation. Okay, so are the t-shirts going into production?
that's what she said.
They're already
So
being
what
printed.
do we need to do to prepare to sell them?
I don't know.
Should we talk about that at our next meeting?
Well, we could talk about it right now,
Okay.
but we talked about it last meeting, and we thought either we can go to different places, they will be at the city. I did talk to, we had a meeting about that, and the city is willing to do some of that, and then we could do some of that
Right. When should we start doing that?
when I get the t-shirts.
And not before.
And, I mean, I figure we did like preliminary on that, but until, this t-shirt thing has been a lot of emails back and forth, so I'm just waiting for the t-shirts at this
Okay.
point. But once I do get the t-shirts, then I'm happy to organize some
Operationalize it.
distribution of t-shirts.
Distribution of t-shirts.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And,
Boy.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I would even suggest that when you, on your website, that would certainly be a venue for you to promote the availability of the t-shirts, and then you could direct the people who are interested to pick them up at the front window. This is how we
Yeah.
discussed the city
Mhm.
hall's involvement.
Yeah.
The merchandise could actually be picked up at the front window of the city hall, payment received at that, taken at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we had discussed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was, and we did not put them, we were not gonna put them on the city website. We were just gonna have people go to the door, pay and check, and pick them up there
Right, but what I'm suggesting is you could do your promotion piece or
on our website.
that on your website is
On-
what, make
right,
it
yeah.
available there,
Okay.
right? That the shirts are available.
And then I think we can talk to different businesses that it's appropriate, and yes.
Did we get an assortment of sizes?
Yes, of course, Denise. I got extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large.
Wow, extra small.
Well, you never know, you got a,
Kid.
Child.
Kid.
Kids.
Yeah.
or a small person.
No.
Okay, so, anybody else for D1 or D2?
Nope.
Great. The next thing is D4. Denise and Carol, any info on the AIB mural?
Yes,
Great.
we've probably had 4 meetings with Tony, Carol, myself, and Carol DeSabatino. And we've agreed on a location. We're talking about the Savannah Road, the Kings Highway side of this building.
I have just a couple pictures with the measurements. If you put them together like this, you get the location.
Okay.
So pass these along. The mural we're talking about again is this that we saw. We would be asking an artist to do their own interpretation of it. We've talked about the idea on the larger side doing this, and on the left side, perhaps doing something about the Native Americans that were here before the settlers. And we've looked for different paintings, we've looked for different works of art. We haven't found any one piece, so we'd be asking the artists to possibly do their own interpretation of that. We've talked very generally about artists. Carol and I, as she reported, took a trip to see Michael Rosato's work, but whether we want to approach him, put out a general call, that's all up in the air. The first thing that we realize needs to be done is to get permission to do something on this building. Michael Rosato uses a substrate, a Lumacore, is that, anyway.
He also uses a cement.
Okay. But the
cement board as well.
The idea is it wouldn't be painted directly on the building, it would be painted on this substrate and then attached, whether by hook or drilled into the brick, you know, or something. But the city owns this building.
That's all right.
So, it seems to me that our very first step has to be to get permission from the city to do something like this. We have talked informally with Christine Beschi, who is in favor of this, and Tony and Carol DeSabatino have talked a couple of times with the head of Lewis Historical Society, who's pretty excited about it. Because of its location on Kings Highway, presumably it would draw people into the museum as well.
For sure.
So,
May I
anyway,
ask a couple questions that come to my mind, Denise?
sure.
Thank you. You're actually speaking with the artist at this point in time, is that
No,
correct? Or is Tony?
no.
No one is. No one's
No.
talking to the artist.
There's no point in talking to the artist if we can't do it. If the city says, you know.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is that the ask to the city is I am gonna suggest that it's gonna have to include how this piece or pieces will be attached to the building. That detail is very important. And so I don't know how you're gonna get that information without speaking to the artist. That's your problem.
But I think it's not unusual, so we can get that information.
Okay.
It's not an unusual way of doing it,
Yeah,
Tony.
and I know nothing about this, so. you know.
Tony does.
And then,
I actually put in a call to Michael today, but.
Tony, can you come?
and
Thank you.
Michael's the artist, is that right?
Michael Rosado is an artist,
Yes.
not the artist.
I'm sorry.
Necessarily.
Okay, I gotcha.
Because, you know,
Sure,
Public Art Committee may want to do a call to artists, I don't
right.
know.
Good point. Okay, I apologize.
I put in a call to Michael Rosato today, and unfortunately had to leave a message, and
Sure.
as of now, he's not called me back. I also put in a call to the company that he uses to get a Lumacore or cement board from, and he's used both, and I've seen examples on his website of both.
Okay,
What I don't know is exactly how he fixes
right,
either of them to whatever building he's putting them on,
right.
and that's why, one of the reasons I called him today.
Excellent.
So I will follow through on that.
Fine, and then what I will do in turn, you can come to me, or, you know, Janet can facilitate this. We have a person who's in charge of facilities for the city, and I will introduce that person to you and give you contact information, and you will want to speak with her and make her part of the decision process.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
So that would be
Mhm.
very helpful.
Appreciate it.
Just as a little note, in the film business, when I was working in that that's what I did, we would attach things to buildings many times. And with brick, I think you want to keep in the cement,
Yeah.
in the joint, in between, which is structurally, it really doesn't bother the building much, and you core it out, you put a core in, and then you run your bolts into it. And that can be repaired afterwards if the piece comes down, very simply, and, so you're not damaging the brick.
Correct.
That's the main thing to bring forth to the city, I think, when permission is being looked for, so.
And while we're speaking about this particular installation, I mentioned it the last time, I'll bring it up again, I've been paying attention to that wall. And especially when you drive by at night. I do think it would be a wall that installation would benefit by by some lighting. And I'm not speaking about commercial grade that you would find out on Route 1, anything like that. but some-
Uplighting maybe.
Uplighting, exactly, and respectful, at a respectful illumination level, so that the art is illuminated, but it's not imposing itself on the community, on the neighbors who are across the street.
Well, and you could look at, the lighting above my sign was just put in, I don't know, months ago, but it's a straight, and it could be under or above, and
Right.
might be just enough to kind of go straight down
Yeah.
the wall.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you think about this in the long run, I think that you could do some lighting fixtures that would be used possibly at this installation, with the idea that they would not be a permanent fixture put on the building, but could be used at other art installations possibly at sometime in the future. They'd be part of your, your inventory to draw from, to be able to use at other
I
installations.
see this as, if the city were to give permission for this, I see this as a pretty permanent thing. I don't, but first of all, I don't know where we'd move it to unless it was moved inside or something. I'm thinking off the top of my head right now, so I assume this gets kicked up into the bigger category you mentioned when you were first speaking, that this is a matter for council to
So
decide.
this would become, are you suggesting this would be a major piece then? Is that what you're thinking now? Is that what we're?
A more
It's not
permanent.
temporary?
More
It's
permanent
certainly
piece.
not temporary. I mean, technically it is because it could be taken down, but I think the idea is it would, long-term.
Yeah, that's how
Okay.
I was thinking of it also.
Well, of course, the other party who needs to make sure that they're fully informed is, of course, the LHS, the tenant of the building.
Who's in favor
I
of it?
understand, but we need to make sure they're part of the discussion as it matures, okay?
Yeah, they've already been part of it.
Good, and I know that, but we wanna keep them in the loop, that's all I'm suggesting.
Um,
Thank you.
So now, do we go to the mayor and council for permission to move ahead on this?
No,
I would
don't
say
know
we
that
have-
we've decided it's a major piece. I
Do
mean,
we need a formal motion to approve, to go to that next step?
Well, wouldn't we need an application here and then bring it to mayor, council? I mean, that would make sense to me, that we would approve it here,
yeah.
Okay.
and then it would
Yeah.
move to mayor and council. And you may need to speak to somebody about whether or not the city will approve it for the wall being used, but that's not the same as, I think,
Right.
being approved here and then approved there. I think the
One's
application needs
logistics, one's,
final. Theirs
I
is
think that'd be
after,
in hand.
it's here first,
Yes.
then there.
Right, and
Uh-huh.
you're doing a
Before we talk to the artist, we need to know that we have permission from the city to use that wall.
But I don't know how does that work? I think,
I
Well-
just don't know how we can,
I-
I mean, if we talk to an artist or put out a call and then the city says,
Right.
next,
that happens all the time.
does it?
Mhm. I mean, I hate to say it, but it
Tim-
does.
I think Tim was saying that in order for the city to approve it, you would need to have a conversation with the artist about how it will be affixed to
Right,
the wall.
Right,
And so that would be a good way to introduce yourselves, our group that we're interested,
yeah.
to move forward from there.
Well, if we get a response to Tony's phone call, that could,
Sure,
that would be certainly a step in the right direction.
right.
It's a strange situation because, I mean, I don't wanna get artists all excited about this and then, anyway. But if that happens,
Yeah, and we're moving forward on trying to get it here, is what
Yes.
we're doing. And public artists are used to, I'm sad to say, but I do think it's always like they're working with cities, and cities are not.
And you're, again,
We know
you're
how
trying
that
to
goes.
build, you're gonna, first of all, this affects the budget that this committee's gonna be submitting to the city.
Mhm.
There's gonna be some impact there. But you're now gonna be, you have reason to believe within the next 60, 90 days, you're gonna be launching this subcommittee that's gonna do fundraising. And if is your goal to get this done for calendar year 2024? Or is this a
Yeah.
2025
so.
project?
I don't know.
I mean, how ambitious are you?
I have no idea.
And
We're
we don't
am-
even-
we're
and
ambitious.
You're not gonna know until you talk to the artist or artists to understand what the costs
Yes,
are.
we don't have any idea how much this will cost.
Exactly.
And that's the other thing, you might talk to the artist and be like, well, this artist won't work.
Or when he's available.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
Or she.
Tony, did you
Right.
want to add something?
In
In a word.
terms of fundraising, it gives us, it gives us a chance to think about when we should ask for it, because I think the artist, Paul Daniel, is that his
Mhm.
name? We've been talking about a summer installation there, and then, then we should think maybe about the mural installation following that.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
And this
I
is
mean,
the
it's
mural
gonna,
installation, the one here in the office
Mhm.
building is the
Yeah.
mural installation?
yeah.
Okay.
And so, and I doubt it will be ready before, not like it's gonna be tomorrow anyway, and we don't have money yet, so. And also AIB might contribute, I don't know how much money we'll need. I mean, they're bringing it to us,
Right,
and so we're working together to bring this into fruition, so,
right.
that all has to be in
I'd
the
forgotten that.
application process.
Right.
Go Tony. He's like, I didn't want to, but now I do.
The chair.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time that we've actually done as you suggested.
Yeah.
And that is 2 people from PAC work with 2 people from AIB. And I think it so far is really working. It's great.
Good.
As far as cost is concerned, I mean, obviously, I'm considering this now as a joint project.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong in doing that, but because I'm working with 2 members of PAC, I'm considering it as a joint project. And therefore, I feel that it's fair for there to be some input of money from the Public Art Committee.
That would be something that you have to ask for, because we don't know
Right.
if we can, or,
Right, I mean,
but yes.
we'll, ultimately, we'll be fundraising jointly.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Which would be great. I mean, it'd be great for us to be working together through the
Right.
whole process, and this is the first time that that's been a thing, and I think it
Exactly.
could be great, and it could be, show how well we work together,
Yeah.
Right.
which
Well,
is,
and think of the Historical Society too.
Yes.
This would be
Yeah.
a big plus for
Exactly.
them.
For all 3 parties.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's a great opportunity for us to partner, which is so,
Collaborate.
amazing.
Right.
And so I think it's really a big win for us if we can get this to go. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about it, and I think I agree. I'm looking at this as a partnership. So, but thus far we haven't had any money, so we're going to do our best to work on that.
Details.
Can I sit
Yeah.
down now?
T-shirts.
Angels.
Okay, so that is great. So do you know your action steps forward?
The application, and I'll talk to Tim, and I'll
Mhm.
talk to Tony, and, or maybe AIB would like to do the application. I don't know.
I think you can do them together. Like it can be.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe a-
At some point earlier, I think, maybe I mentioned it, there's a rewrite of the
It
Regulations?
was like,
One sentence.
yeah.
It just
was
said
one-
about working together.
Right.
Okay.
That was the only
So
thing.
I can send it to you all.
Okay.
And, the only thing I did wanna mention, I did talk to I talked to Tim and then the mayor informally about, increasing the number in our number of people in our meetings. And so I think we need more,
In the committee she's speaking of, not.
yeah, not just in the meetings, we would love that,
Oh,
but
we'd like that
on the
too.
committee.
Right.
And I wanted to get the committee's blessing on that as far as, I feel like we all are having to do quite a bit and we could benefit from having a few more.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't want
Yes.
too many cooks in the kitchen, but I feel like right now, if we were to have 3 projects, we don't even have, we
Right.
would be.
Yeah.
So,
What are you thinking?
Two more?
Currently, we have 6, right?
so if we
Well,
had
we have
8
one
or,
vacancy.
yeah,
Yeah, Nancy's gone, so we need to fill that vacancy
Okay.
and then
Mhm.
1 or 2 more.
yeah.
that
I was
what you're
thinking 8 or 9 would be nice, just to be able to have 3 or 4 projects, but not having too many people overlap with things.
Then you would want an odd number,
Oh,
Yeah,
good to
'cause
know.
right now we have an
So-
even number.
right?
Oh, no, well,
Well, there's only because there's
That's right.
vacancy,
that's right.
right, and we can take care of that
So
soon.
it should be,
Yes.
go from 7 to 9.
Yeah, that's what I kind of was thinking, that
Yeah.
we would benefit from having a few extra hands. And I've thought of a few people, and I'd be happy to, we can meet them, and if you have anybody who you talk to who's really interested in the arts in Lewis, I would really love your opinions and,
Okay.
options, so, okay, well, great. Do we need anything for that motion or anything, or do we have to get some type of official from the council?
The only thing I will say is, again, just relying on the policy document, it describes the committee as a membership of 5 to 7. So if we're growing to 9, we might wanna tweak that so that we're, you're never-
Following.
we're in
Mhm.
full compliance and no one can ever question any individual's, purpose or participation in the committee.
So I can make a motion to change the document from 5 to 7 to 5 to 9?
We can do that, but I think it would have to go
Yeah.
back to mayor
mayor
and
and
council.
Okay.
So I would suggest that you ask the committee for a motion to grow the committee to the number that you want, and with the ask that it be forwarded to mayor and council for review and approval, consideration.
I move that we expand the committee to a membership of 9,
5 to 9. 5 to 9.
from 5 to 9.
Mhm. And go to council.
Forward it to mayor and council.
Okay, who wants to,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yes, we are really moving along today. We're just getting things done. This is great. Okay, and now anybody else, anything from the public have anything to say? Anybody on the committee? Anybody over there? Anybody on the Zoom?
No one on Zoom? They don't know what they're missing.
I know.
They do not know what they're missing by not coming.
So I am gonna make a motion to adjourn.
No, you're gonna ask for a motion.
Oh, could I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Second.
And all in favor?
Ah.
Aye. Okay.